to hang out.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get started. Hey, everybody who's just jumping in here. My name's David Michelle Davies. I'm the executive director of the Webbies. I'm super excited. We have 3 outstanding creative professionals, creative directors with us here today. It turns out that also they're all Swedish, so you know, if you're Swedish and you're watching, maybe they'll give you some secret advice just for the Swedes. Not done on purpose, but let's just quickly go around and do some introductions. Daniel, you're at Mother New York, right?
Yes, I am.
And just give us like a quick intro. How long have you been at Mother, and what's your role there?
So I've been at Mother New York for 2 years now, and I'm a creative director, and I overview most of the digital work that we are doing.
Cool, awesome. I'm not going to say it correctly in Swedish. Calle?
Calle.
Huh?
Calle Sjonell.
Calle.
Is the American version of my name.
I tried.
I'm the CCO of Ogilvy, New York. I've been here for 1.5 years, and prior to that I was at BBH and ran first the Axe and then the Google business.
Awesome. And Erik, you're at Wieden in New York, or are you in Portland?
I am in Wieden, New York. Before that, RGA, and before that, rest in peace, tiny Swedish awesome shop.
Far. I knew you were going to say far. Well, I'm really happy to have you guys here. So, you know, we have a lot of young junior people who are going to be tuning in, and we're also doing this portfolio review here in the office tomorrow. And just an opportunity, I think, for them to learn from you guys as creative directors in advertising and doing internet work, you know, what you're really looking for in junior creatives these days, and what are you looking for in the way they present themselves and present their work, and what type of people are you looking for, and what are the qualities that, you know, you really look for and you think are going to be important to being successful on your team. So that's sort of what we're hoping to you know, answer today and get some feedback from them. And my question, the first question we have, I have like 50 questions here that juniors have sent in, so it's certainly a lot of interest in this. But just to start out, Erik, I'll ask you first. What's like the present? It seems to me that actually the presentation of a portfolio is probably being massively disrupted right now, and that you probably have people coming in with print books, and you must have people coming in with iPads, and people coming in with links to their Behance page. What is the type of presentation you guys are most excited to see, or that you're really liking these days?
Well, the weirdest presentation I've ever seen was actually somebody who sent us a cake with the URL to his portfolio on it. We were just super excited, so we actually ate the cake and forgot about the URL. That was weird.
Sorry, that's funny.
Beyond that, yeah, we see all kinds, shapes, forms, and colors of portfolios. I guess for me, it's pretty easy to go over stuff online, and when they actually get into the office, it's more about sort of the beer drinking test, chemistry, and that stuff.
Right.
I tend to look for people who can clearly articulate their idea in one sentence, things that make sense. Preferably, you want to see real work if they have any.
Right.
I feel like it's. I'm sure we'll get to that later, like with the case studies for work that's never been made.
Right.
And all that stuff, but anything out of the ordinary, anything good. If it's work, if it's the way they brand themselves, if it's a team and they have an awesome name, it can be anything really.
Right. And Kai, what about you? Are you getting? Is it same? It doesn't matter to you as long as you see it, or are you sort of loving a certain trend in portfolio presentation?
Yeah, I think it's been a trend to like use the latest technology. So you know, before people came in with laptops, now people come in with tablets. Like weird coincidence, I have a Skillshare class on this exact same subject as we're talking about now, and there. I think it doesn't really matter what kind of the technology you bring to the presentation. like, of course, if it's interactive, there needs to be some sort of screen that you're seeing this on, and you can that you can interact. What I'm looking for is both the sort of the conceptual idea, preferably in one sentence, but also that the craft and how they did the idea doesn't really matter if it's produced work or not. It needs to be, especially if you're a student, it's hard to have something that's done for real unless it's like private projects. But it just has to be really, really user friendly. I'm not supposed to like trying to like get into learning how to navigate. It needs to be super intuitive. So the craft of the interactive pieces is something to me that's very, very important. People actually know how to make stuff.
And Daniel, same thing. Like, you don't really care if they're showing you that they know the latest site to display the portfolio, or whether it's a book or whatever it is, or does it matter to you?
Well, I do think, one thing we're going to be honest that it's very time consuming to look at a lot of portfolios. So directly when you get the link, you need something to pull the attention that separates you a bit from everyone else to just get a little interest going. And then it has to be super easy and clear, define what did I do on this project, what was the idea. And I like to look at the work, and then if I like it, talk to people, get them in here. And I don't like to talk. Normally when I have people in, I don't like them to show work. It's more about the chemistry, to see that we all click together and his culture works with the culture we have at Mother. And if that passes, we go back and look at the work again. And if I have any questions, I like to just talk about what the role in the project may be doing.
Right. That must be a constant. Yeah, I mean, you see that in Reels. It's always, you see like everybody has the 6 different companies have the same spot on their reel, and you're sort of like, well, which one of you did it? I would imagine it's the same with portfolios.
Yeah. No, definitely.
It's like the amount of people who worked on Small Business Saturday. It was like everyone at Digitas, everyone at Crispin Porter, and also like half of the Ogilvy staff.
Right. That's funny. Okay, so I have a bunch of questions here I thought I'd ask. So a lot of the juniors, this is what they were asking was a lot of questions around how they should position themselves starting out in their career. Like, not necessarily what are the jobs that make them the most money right now, but you guys are successful guys. What, looking back, were the type of jobs that you should have taken or looked for, or been the kind of roles you should have been trying to get, or that you did get, that you really feel like were sort of a differentiator in your career and got you to where you are?
Yeah, I would say for me, especially if you're a junior, to be like really good at your craft, because especially when you look for juniors, you're looking for people who are, great at making things and can come up with tons of ideas, but also making things look either beautiful or the way they, the writing or the making needs to be like top notch.
Right.
Like, to me, that they have to come up with like super innovative ideas. That's going to come, also, as long as you can see that they have that ability. But I've had some, and I've also hired some juniors who are much more on the conceptual stage, but they were not so good at actually making anything.
Right.
And that became really tricky because they weren't even able to make things for the presentation when we presented the ideas.
Right.
So I would be, the better they are at like either just making websites and programming things from on top of everything that's out there already, to quickly make things that looks really appetizing. I think being great at the craft, that's to me one of the most important things looking for juniors.
Right. And Erik, what do you think? Is that something that you feel like it's become more difficult? That with like so many more skills to learn, in addition to like an art school background and now there's also like a technical background and a coding background, and there's so much more, it seems like, maybe as a base of skills to learn. Is that something you guys have seen with the younger people these days, that they don't have that base, or is that not something you're experiencing?
Well, first off, I agree with Calle 100%. I think maybe basically when you have a skill, well, you can do a few things, like Calle said. It's basically that you can make it ready for presentations and all that. But there's also like a sense of ownership. We know that you can trust you to own, develop, and take this idea to new places and make it come alive, basically. I guess your question is more about specific sort of skills, and I would say that the better you are at one thing, the easier it is to actually get your foot in the door. Once you're in, you can prove yourself in other areas or whatever, but portfolios that's conveying that you're pretty awesome at everything is usually not as attractive, especially when it comes, sort of when it leaves my desk and it goes to like recruiters and stuff and people who's looking at cash and vacancies. They usually look for one thing very specific, like we need an art director, or we need a team that can do this, or they need to work on this account. So having like a skill, something that defines you, is absolutely important. And you're right, those skills are much wider now. Like I do not have an art or a copy background like it used to be, and these days we see people with, I used to be a professional welder, or I'm a juggler, I used to be a screenplay writer. But as long as they have that one thing and they can sort of articulate it, I feel like they have a much greater chance of getting their foot in the door.
Interesting. Daniel, what do you think? Do you agree? So, yeah, a skill in craft, and then a very specific skill that they can sort of market themselves around, or be known for.
I definitely agree. When you're a junior, like, you can't know it all. That's why you're a junior, and I think you then should really focus about what you do really well and showcase that. And a lot of, you need to do the stuff. You'll be able to showcase that you can do it. And I always like to kind of look at that, to find the hunger in the people, like to really see that they burn for what we're doing, because you need to be very passionate if you're gonna make it in this industry. So it's get that kind of your personality coming through there and show that you're extremely hungry for getting the job and work hard for it.
Interesting. And so let's look at what one specific skill. We had a lot of people asking about art directors and becoming an art director and putting themselves in like a good position to become an art director and learn from art directors. And how have you guys seen the sort of more traditional role of an art director evolve with the internet? And what are the types of skills? Is there like an internet art director now, or is it just still this? Is it? Does it get specific like that, or is it? Yeah.
To me, it's still very different from making something visual that you're interrupting people to sort of engage with, then creating something visual that people will voluntarily want to interact with. Like, there's so much of the usability factor that goes into designing for the web.
Right.
Or even as like something that sounds really simple, banners is probably one of the hardest things to actually do really, really well in understanding the environment and the sort of the logic of how great banners work. So there's so much more like specialized craft that goes into being an art director these days. It's the same for copywriting because there's so much different places and ways to use text as well. But art direction, I would say, to hire a junior today who cannot make design for the web, that has very, very hard time getting a job.
Right. Erik, what do you think for that question? Just to repeat, generally, like, are you seeing, does like an art director today also have to be user experience person, or do they also have to have good instincts with user experience and sort of like more and information architecture, and like maybe typically which we would thought of as more technical skills years ago?
Well, we here at Wieden, we have people that sort of good at all the things you mentioned, and I feel like that's really when the magic happens, because the traditional art director is going to learn from the interactive designer or whatever, and then there's like a UX person that's awesome, and then we have a weird creative technologist who can contribute in some other way. But to Calle's point, very few agencies today only do sort of print ads, or so you would have a hard time getting into the door unless, like Daniel said, you could somehow prove that yes, you are a traditional art director, but you're willing to do anything to learn, basically. But if you like, for every presentation, there's got to be like the tweets and all that stuff to show how this idea live online and all that stuff, and it's even at the presentation stage before you make things. Yeah, if you do not know the online world, it's going to be equally difficult here as at Ogilvy to get a job.
Right, but like Daniel, do you feel like is it just that at this point, juniors they know all this stuff from their regular life as young people in the world? Is it like I think that at some point there was like there was people who like sort of got the internet and then people who didn't, but I would imagine that juniors coming out of school these days just definitively just get it on their own, right? Or is that not the case?
Well, not really, unfortunately. Of course, the knowledge is much bigger now than it used to be, and even that we brought up to it, use it on every day. There's a bigger knowledge about it, but there's still. I think you have to. It's a different way because it's a journey that you're taking. Every interactive experience is not just one static thing. So you have to be able to design and art direct and see it more as you start here and go, like, it's a long experience. So it's storytelling in an interactive way that you have to design for. And it's not that easy, actually. It's something that takes a lot of practice, and some people get it better than other ones.
Right. You guys work at like places that people want to generally come work for. What do you think? And I guess Calle, first two parts, I guess, is like how many how much of like looking for talent is what you're doing all the time, and then the other part of the question is, what do you think the people that you're interviewing or you're hiring, what do you think they should be looking for in a place to work? What's the type of place that they can go into as a young person and it's going to differentiate their career?
Yeah, I would. The most important thing is for a junior to get a sense from the agency is, would I be able to make work quickly that comes out? So it would be like asking questions like, what account would I work on? Would I be able to work on several accounts? Could I work on a pro bono client? Those kinds of things. I would also ask how many teams they put on each brief. Because if the agency does, like, there's tons of people involved on all things, it's very hard to get things out as a junior. And well, I look through books like all the time, either from our recruiters or people who send me stuff, and which is also kind of remarkable. Like, sometimes when I just lift up the phone, someone calling, it's just a sort of, hey, we're two creators from Peru. Take a look at my book. It's like, okay, and if I would encourage everyone to give me a call, I would probably, it's going to be a hard time answering the phone, but I think when people really want something and be really kind of creative and like smart about it, like, you just get a smile and you understand that, if they've done something creative, getting in contact with me, then they're probably some pretty decent creatives because they thought of that piece.
Right. Which is, I think, actually a good sort of like fun question. Erik, I think, already answered this about the creatives that sent them a cake. But Daniel, what's like I know we read about these things all the time online, but like, what's the biggest stunt that you've seen anybody do? Maybe not even the biggest, which is the one that you like the most, or that you thought,
I did get someone sent me a site maybe like half year ago, and I think the URL was give me 60 seconds of your life please.com, and it had like a little counter that it counted down 60 seconds and its jobs kind of passed by. I thought that was a very, like, it definitely gave me the attention to take the time and look at it. And I stayed a little longer on the site, but it was a very smart way to do it, because it was a good insight of, we look at a lot of work and you have to stand out for it, and give me 60 seconds. So it was a very nice way to do a portfolio online that stood out for everything else. And it worked. I gave him the time directly.
Calle, how about you?
Yeah, I had some creatives who bought, I think, ad space on Facebook with my name. And it was something with like some picture of me with some unicorn like spear in my forehead. So it's like, yes, of course I looked over to be like, what the fuck is that? And and they came to the interview.
That's funny.
It worked. It's like, as long as it's charming and it's like not
too weird,
stalkerish weird, then it just shows like their level of creativity, just making themselves noticed.
Yeah. Do you I'll stick with you for a second. Another question, which is there? I just think it's nice to give these guys like a sense of what were projects for you guys that made a difference, and like that you really like look back on. Like, what was a project? It doesn't have to be the one, but over the last like 5-10 years, one of the projects that you feel, when you sort of look back, you're like, oh, that was a project I really learned something and made a big difference in my career.
Is it me?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I probably have to say the Oasis campaign. Me and my brother did a BBH. We had street musicians play Oasis album, which hasn't been released, so you can go and listen to all the new songs out in New York City with the street musicians. The interesting thing there is that we came up with the idea like without Oasis. It was just the idea. It's like, whoa, wouldn't it be interesting if street musicians who usually play like really famous songs would play like unreleased songs? And they were like, whoa, shit, that's really cool. And then we contacted Warner. Green Day turned down the idea, Metallica turned down the idea, and like 6 months later, Oasis said yes. So it's like really interesting how just a little interesting twist on an idea then leads to something. It was just, it's just a tiny little sentence you come up with, and that became really huge and really, cool.
Yeah, but that's like a great lesson, right? Because on some level, that was like spec work that you guys turned into an actual client because it was a great idea, and you pursued it, and you figured out how to sell it, and you did all the things that you have to do.
Yeah, and everyone in the management, of BBH was also like, oh my God, this is amazing. So we have to pursue this and, find people who want to be part of this. Our client, New York City, the tourism board, we presented to, who came on, to sponsor the idea.
Right.
So we get a lot of help. That's harder as a student because you don't have sort of, an infrastructure you're working in.
Right.
You realize those things, but even the simplest ideas, done right, can have a huge impact even if you're a student. And it's been, you see that all the time.
Yeah. How about you, Daniel?
Well, everyone is really learning and good. I would like maybe touch about. We just did a campaign a couple of weeks ago that was for Target, where we launched Janelle Monáe's latest album. And what was very interesting in that is we've been doing a lot of experience work for Target, and one role is how do we make experience real life in also working so the whole world can tune into it on an online perspective to merge. That is something we definitely move into, is a lot of merging real life experience with the digital world.
Right.
And the learning was enormous. One thing was what was a part of the campaign was to we set up a radio station called Electric Pirate Radio. I learned so much about streaming music globally online is a lot of work, yes, to start with that information. But it was quite an amazing project to really see how you can have people through, we did a physical map through Google Maps where you could follow people all around the city that has had tickets to the event, and to see how the whole world tuned in and just followed, tried to find these people to get to the concert, how you could use the power of music and the radio station to just have people communicate through each other and to people that actually in the real life, and how you bring those things together in a very interesting event. And that was extremely learnful to see how everything just came together quite amazingly. And it all ended up with a boat. We broadcast the radio station through a boat for 6 hours, and then she came in at the event that was 6 hours later at Pier 58 here in New York, and all the activities during those 6 hours led to everybody that was at the event later that night, and the spirit of everyone that came for this exclusive concert just because of them was really amazing to see.
Sounds awesome. I'm going to check it out. Erik, what about you? A campaign or something you worked on either a while ago or recently that you look back and is like, this was a big thing for me and I learned from it and here's why, kind of thing?
I think the big things and the big learnings are pretty different. Just to be sort of, we did some really horrible, atrocious things back in the day, like horrible flash sites. I'm pretty happy they're not around anymore. And to me, those things have always been the biggest learnings.
Right. Yeah.
I remember, this is not a good thing to say when it's talking about portfolios, but the first thing I ever did at Farfar was to sort of kind of bend the truth a bit and tell the person who hired me that I knew the PHP, the coding language. And they're like, cool, you're going to make this admin backend thing. And I was like, holy crap. And I don't think I've ever learned more in shorter period of time from that stuff. And we did some really atrocious things for Visit Sweden. I apologize, 10 years later. I think all these things have been extremely valuable. But it's cool. It's like you're given sort of a bit more of a responsibility, and you sort of try and fail, blah, blah, blah. But as long as you sort of keep pushing, I guess, and keep learning from it, you're going to be fine.
Right. Right. All right. Last question for each of you. What's the one thing they shouldn't do to get a job with you? What's the thing that people do that you're like, don't do this? Is there anything?
Well, for me,
yeah.
If they're, well, this is it took a while for me to learn this lesson, but if they are crappier than I am, they will not get a job.
Right.
If I can have my way, I want to hire people better than myself so I can learn.
Right.
Of course, if they do happen, yeah, if they, I don't know.
So that goes back to that idea of having some specific skill set though, right? Because they're not going to be better than you at everything, but there might be one thing they're good at that you're not good at, and that might be appealing.
Yeah, totally. And it's a beer drink. The other thing is the beer drinking test. So if they fail that, that's not good. What else?
Calle, how about you?
I would say this is more like with the portfolio, I wouldn't put too many like average idea in the portfolio. Like it's much better to have a smaller amount in the portfolio that's really good than having like you're not going to get a job on the quantity. You need to, of course, like show the variety of skills that you have, but I would always go for fewer ideas rather than a lot.
Right. That's pretty good. I like that.
Yeah.
Daniel, go ahead. What do you got?
No, I definitely agree with both of them, and exactly. But also one thing that not enough, because most of his portfolio will look at our website, and people should really design for mobile, because I do look a lot of stuff on my phone when I go in there, and we all seen the sites as like trying to push everything into your screen, and it's actually we all talk about it, and we all know that mobile is such a big thing, but we should think about when we build their sites that they should be working on mobile phones, because that's how most of us actually look at their portfolios.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's like we all say it about all the actual work that we do, but maybe you don't think about it for a portfolio because you assume somebody's at a computer. But I think it's a super good point. All right, so and we'll end up. So make it for mobile. That's a good idea. Edit it down to the best. Like get rid of the edit out all the other ideas except your best ideas, and potentially the most important or as important as the other two is don't fail the beer drinking test.
Exactly. Drink beer with Erik.
Yeah. Like 3 solid rules. You guys, thanks so much. I really appreciate you doing this. I know the juniors appreciate it. I want to thank Vitamin T, who's a big career partner and is hosting and supporting our hangout today. And hope to see you guys around New York. And let me know if you get any good applicants from this too.
We will.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Great. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.